In recent months, Koei Tecmo has been giving fewer and fewer games to the PlayStation Vita community in the West. So, with developers like Omega Force and developers like Gust, we're going to get fewer games on the Vita. But, if you're a handheld gamer, you still have some options. The Nintendo Switch is starting to get those Koei Tecmo games. We're getting the new Atelier on the Nintendo Switch. We're getting Attack on Titan 2 on the Nintendo Switch. And we got the second Knight of Azure game on the Nintendo Switch. So, let's talk about it. Here is my review of the Nintendo Switch version of Knights of Azure 2, Bride of the New Moon. The Knights of Azure series are set in a world where long ago, a demon known as the Night Lord was defeated, and upon his death, his blood washed over the world, transforming everything and everyone it touched into monsters. And over the years since, an agency known as the Curia has been sacrificing priestesses in order to seal away the constantly resurrecting demon leaders. Now, Knights of Azure 2 takes place decades after the events of Knights of Azure 1. Story revolves around Aluche, a holy knight who's originally tasked with sacrificing her childhood friend to seal away the new demon leader, dubbed the Moon Queen, only to have the Moon Queen ambush her right at the beginning of their journey and murder her in cold blood. Aluche later awakens as a half-demon and sets out on her new adventure to track down her missing friend, stop the Moon Queen for good, and resist her thirst for blood all along the way. Now, the story of Knights of Azure 2 is really good at times, and it's a little off at times. The series has always had this Yuri theme to it, offering tones of women that are romantically attracted to one another, and it only makes things awkward when you've got a really serious cutscene and a semi-forced Yuri segment that completely changes the mood and changes how serious an incredibly serious situation is. You could have someone literally dying in front of you. You have a solution, and they stop you from healing their ever-degrading corpse because they want you to say something romantic first. It just doesn't make sense. Knights of Azure 2, by gameplay, is a hack-and-slash action RPG with kind of a Musou feel to its combat. It's kind of got the same original feel as the original Knights of Azure, but a few things have changed, like the party system, and you've generally just got a lot more options and variety as far as combat styles and weapon types go. Now, basic progression through the game is basically you have a hotel that's your base of operations. You start each day at the hotel, go out and spend the day in dungeons doing a raid or a hunt. Then you come back at the end of the day, do your customization, and advance to the next day. Now, since we're running through days, Gust has inserted time management into this series. Every day that you go through in the game makes the moon's phase change. If that phase ever reaches the new moon phase, the game will end. In order to restore the moon phases and keep the Moon Queen from ending the world, you have to find your story chapter's major boss and defeat it. To tie in with that, your half-demon body can only take so much stress, so you only have a certain amount of minutes to do a raid. So you've got time management to think about. Now, before you really get down thinking, oh no, not time management, I hate this, it's really generous. In each chapter, you get somewhere between 5 and 7 days before the game would end. Whenever I'd go into a chapter, I could reach the story boss in about 2 to 3 days. That means I would have 3 to 5 days at least left to do any of the side quests and explore any of the hidden areas. Now, this system is generous, but there's also a major flaw in it. The time-based system is not the problem, but you can only visit one dungeon per day. Each chapter is loaded with side quests to take you to different dungeons, meaning that if you have 3 days until the game ends, and you have side quests for 2 different dungeons, you can't do all the side quests in one day, even if they're incredibly easy and short side quests. And this becomes an irritation when you go into one dungeon, you finish your side quests in 2 minutes. You've got 12 minutes left before your hunt timer goes down, and you can't do anything else, so you just kind of run around and fight enemies to feel like you didn't waste your entire day on that measly 2-minute quest. Now, when you're actually out in the field and in combat, everything is real time. You walk into an area, enemies spawn in front of you, and you start your combat. As I said in the intro of this section, this game is kind of like a Musou game. You have light and heavy attacks, and you can combo your attacks together in different ways. To keep the known repetition that Musou is known for out of here, there are a lot of different party members you can recruit that can transform into different weapons, which will also change the entire way you fight. But the biggest aspect of combat is the Lillian partner system. There are special types of attacks you can do in certain situations. Like you can perform double attacks by attacking an enemy at the same moment your party member does. This allows you to use special cinematic character-based cooperation attacks. Not only are these really powerful attacks, but they also give you affinity points, leveling up the affinity rank between you and that character, unlocking later romantic events, but more importantly, adding points towards whether or not you get the true ending when you beat the game. Now, to finish up this section, let's talk about length. Knights of Azure 1 was known for being an incredibly short RPG, only clocking in at around 15 to 18 hours for one run. Knights of Azure 2, thankfully, is longer. When I went through the game, I was doing steady story progression, I was using most of my days for side quests, mostly the character-based ones, and I beat the game with the true ending in around 27 hours. Do not believe the time that you see on those save files. I accidentally left the game on when I went to work one day, so it's got 10 extra hours on there. It wasn't 37 hours to my clear data, it was 27. And of course, after you beat the game, you do have replayability. You've got your true ending that you can get in a single run, but you have to max out every playable character's affinity to get the secret epilogue, so you're gonna do at least another run for that. Plus, you've got all of the regular New Game Plus stuff, carrying over data, getting an extra menu so you can rewatch the movies and see all of the different media, and to put a little bit of weight off your shoulders. An upcoming patch for the game is going to remove the moon phase time limit for New Game Plus. Now let's get to presentation. Graphically, the game looks really nice for a handheld Gus game. All of the CG scenes look perfect, and in TV mode and handheld mode, the renders look pretty good. For a portable Gus game, it looks worlds better than any of the PS Vita games Gus has made. Now, the technical problems of the game don't come from graphics or sound, but from the stability of the frame rate. When you're exploring dungeons, when you're watching cutscenes, or when you're customizing at your base, you've got a nice solid 30 frames per second. When you enter combat with enemies, it starts to drop. And it drops a little or a lot, depending on what mode you're playing in. In TV mode, combat, the FPS might drop and stay in the mid-20s, so about 25, 26 FPS, somewhere around there. When you're in handheld mode, it is significantly worse. Combat in handheld mode can easily drop under 20 frames per second, which makes for a playable but very, very rough experience. It's really clear that Gus is still learning how to optimize Switch games. Now for battery life. I was pretty hopeful for this, to be honest, so here are my times for 100% to 0%. With maximum brightness and the Wi-Fi on, 3 hours and 7 minutes. Maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 3 hours and 33 minutes. Low brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 3 hours and 37 minutes. And low brightness with Wi-Fi off, 4 hours and 32 minutes. Now this is pretty decent, honestly. You're going to get about 3 to 4.5 hours out of each charge. Now in conclusion, Knights of Azure 2 is a pretty decent RPG that feels a little Atelier and a little Warriors, with a little Yuri and a little bit of a gothic setting. Now the game is definitely flawed, with your 1 dungeon a day progress point, and some pretty significant frame drops in handheld mode. But if you can take the FPS drops or just stick to TV mode, it has a very unique story that is definitely worth experiencing. Reviews to Go rates Knights of Azure 2 for the Nintendo Switch a 7.5 out of 10. If you'd like to discuss this further, feel free to leave a comment below or head to my website at www.reviewstogo.com.